What we're doing here, look at this area I just worked on. I don't even have to repaint it at all. I just sanded, and I'm doing this by having different brushes. And I have different grits of sandpaper. So we see things are starting to take shape by just removing paint. We have kind of shapes left over, and I'm pretty much just ignoring my main reference. Sometimes it's better to just do that. I just really want to open this up back there so we see the shapes of these trees better. Okay, it looks pretty bad now, but it's all part of the plan. You see how we put a little thinner on there. It makes the color a lot darker than what we see right now when we sand something. It looks very dull, and it's actually getting glare from the lights in your room. But the first thing we have to do is repaint some of the sky up in that corner especially. You just couldn't really sand that off or rub that off without rubbing off some of the surrounding sky. But we got it pretty good, but it's going to have to be repainted, and I'll have to match those colors. And luckily we have this tree kind of blocking the way, so I won't have to go all the way over into all this and match all that perfectly. That would get pretty tough. So I can just paint and stop in that area, and it just has to be relatively close. And then we'll paint in some of these areas here with sky color, so that looks, have a good background color. I was even thinking, almost looks like the row of trees here, like it maybe goes downhill. We have this opening. I was tempted to maybe do that, but I'm deciding whether to go down with it or up, which is kind of like our original reference. And I think I'm really just going to go up. I'm going to up there, and I'm actually going to bring this up more on this side as well. That way it really feels like this is a low part of the valley, since we're going to be putting fog in here especially. A little more nicer shapes of landscape. So I think we'll try that. But that will be all dark there, right? And this is kind of the back side of a hill, or large hill. And it would be the backside from the sun, so it's going to be dark. So how do we distinguish these different layers of distance? I think, we'll do kind of what we're going to do with a darker tree up close. And these would be kind of bushes and stuff. And maybe I'll make that more sunlit and put kind of brighter places of leaves and bushes and things. And then we'll have that dark hill further back yet. So those different distances will show up with the different values. Here's the color of our whitish yellow. And we start throwing some alizarin crimson into that, and more of the yellow as well for more of these oranger things. Here's where I start throwing the blue in there. It's more of a neutral sky color, or even getting into cloud color if you add enough of that. So here we are. We have our acetate on here. It's just a sheet of plastic made for things like this. And I'm starting out by painting the dark that I left on there. That's going to have to be painted dark with leaves or branches or something that's already dark. So I'm starting with that, and I'll just go from there and add in addition to that some nice shapes that I want. Basically the trees aren't going to be much different. Similar trees, very close to the same, but I just wanted to open up where we see more branches. Let's just see what it looks like. And obviously, the stuff wipes right off if I want to change it. You're not messing up your painting. Now see how the shapes of this tree look, and then throw in a couple spots for white lambs and see if we get a nice placement for those. So here we kind of just made a printout of that photo. I'm not worried about this too much. Not even a very good printout, and it's small, but it's just there. I feel like looking at what we did the first time. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing again. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. Main thing I just want to keep in mind to leave some more empty spaces and throw some branches in there so we see those a little better. So some of these kind of fainter areas that were just left behind when we did our sanding, it's kind of helping me just imagine the far side of the tree and the more faint ones, or the back side of the leaves, whatever you want to call it. So I'm throwing a little more yellow, a tan, a little white into that, and less paint on the brush, more scratchy and faint and fuzzy. And you know, no matter what, at least the worst, it's going to have that variety that we want. You can't get too far along without starting to kind of think about where are these leaves coming from. And I always have the ability, which I'll do, I'm sure, is paint in some sky in some places. I save that sky color. That's something that you'll want to save because you'll never know when you have to reuse and patch things up or fill in areas. So I save that and I seal it up and put it in the refrigerator or freezer. That keeps it fresh longer. And I'm just throwing some of our brown and tan right on top of there. Kind of starts that variety going. It's more of a warm green. It's like, maybe this is later in the summer, right before fall. Just looks better doing that. And remember as we did before, the idea of foreshortening on certain branches. We'll make sure we got some of that in here before this is all done, where you have lots of twist in something, but it's actually a very short line. The branch is coming toward you. So you have all these turns in it, but it's very short. That's what makes it look like it's coming at you. So I think I'll give this tree a break. Don't push it. I'll let that dry. We'll add another darker coat and then do our detail texture, but I'm smoothing this over before this really dries. It's getting sticky now. I want to have that smooth surface, and you kind of test it. If it's quite wet, I'll use a smaller blender and work within tight areas. That way I'm not messing up the shape by going over the whole thing and smearing it too much. This is pretty sticky, so I see I can kind of go over this with a larger brush. And if it's so sticky that it doesn't smooth out with that, you take a little stiffer brush and go over with a nice soft flat brush. Test it out with the softest one possible. That way you're not smearing things. So I'll just do the same thing for the next tree, and it's the smaller, and the only difference will be is it'll put some sky color in it. That gives it a little atmosphere and pushes it back in the distance a little bit. Other than that, doing the exact same thing. Well, next time we tried out some pretty cool ideas with this landscape, but we're still working on it, so we'll have to see what happens. Bye for now.